Thank you, Mr. Chairman. General Milley, you've served our nation well, and when the history is written of your service, it will clearly recognize that America was safer under your watch, and the troops you led had an effective and caring leader under your command. But this history may not tell the whole story, unless you write it, of your fidelity to our Constitution when there were serious questions of the peaceful transition of power, which is essential to the preservation of our democracy. Because of you, our Constitution and our Union survived, and we are stronger today. Thank you. Secretary Austin, yesterday I had a meeting in my office of several senators with a man named Karim Khan. He is the chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court. He recently charged Vladimir Putin with war crimes. We know what he's basing that on, the unspeakable atrocities caused by the Russian forces in Ukraine, stealing, kidnapping hundreds, if not thousands, of children, rape, beheadings, torture, mass executions, and targeting individual private citizens for his bombardment. Ukraine's Prosecutor General has documented more than 77,000 war crimes and crimes against humanity. Sadly, the number continues to grow. When I met with Comrade Khan, I asked him if there was more the United States could do to help him gather the evidence and the documents necessary to prosecute Vladimir Putin for these awful war crimes. He said there was cooperation from the Department of State, the Department of Justice, but he did not include the Secretary of Defense in your department. Khan's efforts regarding war crimes are so important that Congress last year passed additional authority allowing the U.S. to share critical war crimes evidence and intelligence with the International Court of Criminal Justice. We have one president, we have one commander-in-chief, but I'm not certain that we have one policy when it comes to the war criminal Vladimir Putin. I'd like to ask you directly, why are you reluctant to share the evidence that we have gathered in the United States through the Department of Defense for those who are holding Vladimir Putin accountable for his war crimes?
Thank you, Senator. Up front, I absolutely agree with what you said in terms of the atrocities that we've witnessed throughout. It's been absolutely despicable, and we continue to see evidence of Putin deliberately targeting civilians, hospitals, and apartment buildings, and you name it. The department firmly supports the goal of holding Russia accountable for its violations in Ukraine. There are multiple ways to promote accountability, including the domestic Ukrainian efforts that you mentioned, and I believe that in a principled approach to promoting accountability. And I will always prioritize the protection of U.S. military personnel in anything that we do.
So why is your department not sharing evidence that we have gathered to help that effort? The Department of State is, the Department of Justice is. Why is the Department of Defense not doing so?
Senator, I will just tell you that it's important to us to make sure that that Russia is held accountable, and we support the goal of holding them accountable. But again, I do have concerns about reciprocity going forward, and so we will continue to look for ways to support the effort of holding Russia accountable.
Are you aware of the additional authorities we created by law that allow your department and the others of this government to cooperate with the ICC?
I am aware of the legislation, Senator.
Do you feel there is a deficiency in that legislation which holds you back from helping to prosecute Vladimir Putin?
I see no deficiencies in your legislation, no.
Then what is the explanation? There's got to be a bottom line here. Why is it when these prosecutors come and meet with us, they list the cooperating agencies of our government and specifically don't list the Department of Defense? Why?
Again, Senator, we'll do everything within our power to make sure that that we support efforts to hold Russia accountable. But again, I remain concerned about the protection of U.S. military personnel.
I've got to ask for more, General. I respect you, and I voted for you, and I'd do it again, but I've got to ask for more. Your personal feelings about whether you do it or not should be second to the law, should it not?
It is. They are, Senator.
Well, if the law says cooperate and you refuse, what conclusion am I supposed to draw?
Senator, we have not refused any to abide by any law. So there could be some confusion here, but again, we support the goal of holding Russia accountable.
I have to ask you to prove it, and by doing so, and I have to ask you why the people who observe the conduct and policy of the agency think you're falling short and you're holding back. Why we would hold back evidence against this war criminal, Vladimir Putin, and the terrible things he's doing, I don't understand at all. You say you don't think the law is deficient, but you have a feeling. Mr. Secretary, give me more than that. Tell me why. You must have a compelling reason for not cooperating. What is it?
Again, I will always prioritize protection of our military personnel. That's my concern.
And you don't think the law that we've passed does that?
I didn't make a comment on the law, Senator. I think, again, the law is sufficient, obviously. It's been established by Congress, so, and we are compelled to respect the law. So.
Well, I would never jeopardize our troops, and I know Senator Graham feels the same. We both worked on crafting this law so it would necessarily protect our troops. And you've drawn a personal opposite conclusion, and I think it is, frankly, hurting the efforts to hold Putin accountable. Thank you, Mr. Durbin. I yield.
Senator